doesn't have the required degree of transparency, the height that the plan commission suggested for the front yard would be not in excess of 4 feet. So that's a change. We've never had that kind of suggestion in the village before. It's completely, it's a new subject matter for us. But it required us to go through and try and develop definitions for what is a deer fence, what is a chain link fence, what are some of these other fences we have around the little trees, the tree protection fences. Those are also kind of a woven wire fence often. The ordinance requires that you get a permit for a fence unless there are certain exceptions. The exceptions I'll just mention briefly were exactly to cover the kind of situation we have out in the village hall where we have little new trees with protective fencing around the trees. Or where somebody has a garden plot and they have 3 or 4 foot, what we call a chicken wire fence. Now we have a fancier term for it, but essentially a woven or metal wire, welded wire fence that probably is seasonal or could be moved if it's not screened. We also have other kinds of temporary fences in the village that don't necessarily get addressed here for erosion control and construction activities which are regulated in the building code. So don't need a permit. Those are exceptions where you don't need a permit. Otherwise, the ordinance requires that you have a permit. Then we addressed regulations in several categories. One category dealt with height and the location of the fence and transparency. And I'm looking at page 3 of the draft ordinance. Talk about the front yard. I'm looking at the bottom of page 3. We talked about 895, section 895. We talked about the front yard, the side yard, or the rear yard. As the Plan Commission learned through many hours of discussion, in our zoning code, the yard refers to an area that's approximately 50 feet in depth. That's what we call the front yard. The side yard is maybe 40 feet in the R1 district. Rear is at 30 feet, the rear yard is 40 feet. This is essentially the area where you're not allowed to build, you're not allowed to have a structure. And in some other ordinances, this is referred to as the setback. It's the area that everything has to be back away from. You can't have anything in the yard. It's supposed to be open, green. We do allow a number of things that can go in these yards because they have to. Mailboxes, ornamental lights. There are a number of items that can't go in the yard, and under our zoning ordinances, fences can go in yards, at least under the current, what we have currently in the code. What we try to do here at the bottom of page 3 is to say, when located in a front, side, or rear yard, a fence shall be limited to 6 feet. That means when located between, say, the street and the setback line, a fence should be limited to 6 feet. Except as follows, and then we have exceptions at the top of page 4. One exception is that solid fences in the front yard should be limited to 4 feet, unless they're on a major road. Another exception to the height of fences in these yards or setback areas is that we do allow higher fences to screen recreational vehicles. I don't need to only turn this direction, Cheryl. Here, I'll try and turn down this way. We have some other definitional issues measuring the height of a fence when it's on a retaining wall, information about how high a post can go because the post sometimes extends above the main level of the fence. That's the basic concept that in one of the required yards, front, side, or rear yard, we now are suggesting a limitation both on height and in the front yard, in certain circumstances, a limitation on a solid fence that it not be higher than 4 feet. Then you'll see in next subsection B, when not located in a front, side, or rear yard, a fence shall be limited to 6 feet, except that open fences and deer fences can be up to 8 feet in height. So when you step further back into the building pad of the property, you're not in the setback area, we still wanted fences fences to only be 6 feet unless they were basically transparent or an open type fence. We didn't think that, the Plan Commission didn't think that 8-foot stockade fence was really necessary, even if it was not in the buildable pad of the lot. So the exception was made for open fences and including specifically deer fences. And the idea here is that it would be possible to have an 8-foot deer fence around the entire property as long as you were around basically the building pad of the property rather than the perimeter lot line of the property. That was the basic compromise that the Plan Commission made, and it's in this section here.
So would that be 50 feet in the front and then 40 and 40?
It would be as defined by our zoning ordinance, what
Right.
the yards are. So we define from the street right-of-way line, go back, R1 is 50 feet front yard.
And it's different if we're in R1 or R2?
Right.
Got it, okay.
It's 50, 40, 30, 30.
Thank you.
In the course of researching fence ordinances, then we came across a lot of partial problems, exceptions. Driveway gates was a matter that initially we weren't thinking of only in terms of height, although we did recommend a height limitation of 6 feet. But Russ, Director of Community Services, wanted to make sure with some of these newer electric gates that have a lot of supporting arms and everything that they maybe have to have some structural drawings because sometimes they're quite extensive. And also that they be positioned far enough back from the street so that a car can pull in, wait for the gate to open without being resting on the street, stuck on the street. So we addressed that issue in subsection C. There are some other little tweaks here. No fence shall be constructed within 2 feet of a public sidewalk, bicycle, or multi-use path. We're thinking where we extend the bike paths in some areas of the village, we put a fence right up against the bike path. You don't have sufficient clearance. According, Pat Glenn will probably give me the right site, but according to the federal requirements, there has to be at least 2 feet of side clearance for a bicycle or multi-use path. That was the genesis of that particular suggestion. No fence in subsection E, we say, shall impede or alter the natural surface water drainage. This was an issue that we've had many times over where someone knowingly or unknowingly puts a fence across a drainage culvert. No person shall maintain a fence in a way that interferes with clear view of traffic. This is a normal safety requirement. Just the subject of fences for dog lands. So all of section 895 deals with the sum total of all the requirements that the Plan Commission recommended for height and location requirements. And then this concept of transparency. I guess there are 3 subject matters in that section. The next section, 896, is a little more pedestrian. It deals essentially with construction methods and materials and colors. I'm not going to skip it. The Plan Commission thought that we ought to have some standard in terms of what kind of materials fences are made of for the overall value and appearance of the community. And so for the first time, I don't think we've ever before specified in a fence ordinance what kind of materials are suitable for fences. It is commonly done in other communities, we just have never done this. We tried to pick up every kind of known material that we have in the village that the Plan Commission thought was commendable or acceptable, and came up with a color suggestion that the fence posts be black, brown, gray, or similar neutral earth tones. Yes, some people had concerns that the people may one day come up with a crazy pink fence or something. I don't know. There are construction requirements for a chain link fence, even a wood fence, that's the size of the members. Some of this material is addressed by the normal building codes that the village has adopted, but in some instances, again, Russ thought it would be helpful to have in one place what the construction requirements are for some of these fences. We retained one of the restrictions that we currently have, which is that if you do construct a perimeter fence around your property, you put the ugly side in facing you, the side that has